tell the story of how one couple lost everything in a scheme that could easily entrap you. Local 12 troubleshooter Howard Ain tells us how to avoid becoming the next victim.
How would you like to double your money in just a few months? That was a promise made to many people, but it was a multi-million-dollar scam that cost some people everything.
I borrowed $75,000. 4 months later, he gave me a check for $150,000.
Stephen and Christine Beeler said they couldn't believe they had doubled their money in just a few months. Their dilemma, should they invest again?
I tried to convince my wife, and she was very apprehensive on investing that much money. We ought to just try maybe a little bit more for a little longer time.
The couple decided to borrow against their home and make another investment with Jim Pantazelos and his firm Destiny's Partners. Months passed. They received no check, so Stephen called.
Then he quit talking to me. He refused to answer my phone calls, and that's when I really started getting worried. My wife, she invested her 20 years of retirement in it. I invested $100,000 plus what we had our house.
The total, $411,000.
I had such apprehension about borrowing the maximum that they would allow us to borrow on the house. You know, when you need to listen to your gut, well, that's one time that I should have been more forceful.
I cried so hard I literally collapsed because we had lost everything that we had. And all of a sudden we find out there's an investigation going on. Our hearts just sunk.
To make matters worse, Christine lost her full-time job, and her parents had also invested with Destiny's Partner.
My mom is now 84 years old, and she lives from hand to mouth. Compliments of Jim Pantazelos. So people get hurt in these things, and it isn't fair, it isn't right, and even if they had given him life in prison, for the rest of our lives, we will always be his victims. And I refuse to allow him that much control over me.
Postal inspectors say this scheme cost thousands of victims more than $4 million. Their advice, do your research.
If the investment is a sound investment, the opportunity will still be there for you to invest after you've had the chance to do your research, do your due diligence, and find out about the company.
If the returns are probably more than industry standards or more than you can dream, it probably is a nightmare.
Pantazelos has been sentenced to 9.5 years in federal prison for operating this Ponzi scheme. Howard Ain, Local 12 troubleshooter.